I've been spending the last couple days in this Christmas break kind of getting ready for second semester, putting together all of the lessons and getting ready for my students. Yes, if you're out there, I'm thinking about you. Putting all this together, and as I'm going through and putting these chapter readings and topics together, there's one section that always inspires good conversation. And the students, I think, find very interesting because it raises a lot of questions and speaks to their hearts. It's a whole unit on love, sexuality, and the theology of the Bible. And it's something that seems so natural, and yet in many ways we have to completely relearn. Love ought to be something that just happens, shouldn't it? That seems to be the natural tendency, the thought in our mind, that love just happens. But in reality, love requires a lot of work. Love is not something that just happens. Love doesn't strike us with the tip of Cupid's arrow, but rather, love is something that is freely chosen again and again and again and again. That love becomes something we have to relearn. Because all of the messages and all of society around us and the culture of our world has taken love from its divine heights and sunk it down into the depths of earthiness. So that love is communicated to us wherever you look as passion, as feeling, as attraction, as infatuation, as all of these things, all of these emotions, all of these feelings, all of these things that happen within inside of ourselves and we have no control over them. And if we really think about that, if that's the case, if love is something that is centered inside myself, then I don't need anybody else because I am complete. Love happens in here. But in reality, we know that's not true. Love isn't something that happens inside of ourselves. Love isn't something that crosses our minds or passes through the heart. No. Love is something, rather, that happens out here. Love is something that is practiced not by the heart, but by the hands, and by the feet, and by the mouth. Love is something that is practiced in everything we say and do, how we live our lives. That's how love is practiced. And many times the practice of that love isn't easy. And many times love doesn't have those feelings and emotions that we often attach to it. But rather, love is challenging. And love is difficult. And love requires sacrifice. And love pulls us outside of ourselves because love is not inside ourselves. The church gives us today the image of the Holy Family to express this reality of what love is. That love is something that cannot be contained. And so what does the divine Son of God do? But rather, he pours himself outside of himself even, to take on our humanity, becoming a human being among us. Jesus shows us that the gift of love is something that is given away. That I will begin to teach you what love is by giving myself totally to you, leaving my place in glory, and humbling myself to become a creature in the womb of this woman from Nazareth. And I will be raised by one of my creatures, Joseph, the son of David. And I will be obedient to them, humbling myself, giving myself totally, because I am showing you, all of us, how to love. That love is not first and foremost about me, but love is always about the other. If it's not about the other, then it's not love. It's selfishness, it's lust, It's greed. It's all of those things that want to suck in and consume and dry up. But rather, love is fruitful. Love bursts forth. Love blossoms. Love pours out its fruits, not for itself, but to be given away, to be consumed by another, to be reaped and harvested. Love shares generously. And the image of the family reveals that to us, that we are incomplete in learning how to love on our own. We all come from a family, and I am sure none of your families are perfect. Mine certainly isn't, and I don't know that I've ever met a perfect family. And we love our families, and their families try us to no end. And as we gather in family, and as we encounter family, we encounter what it means to break out of ourselves. Because these are the places where we are taught to extend to another. I live and breathe and love for your good. It is a choice that I make. Love doesn't come to us from within, but rather love comes to us from without. Love is God, who centers himself in our humanity. And so in this Christmas season, our first task is to know this God who is love, and to be like the Virgin Mary and let him pour himself upon us. Does he have a home within you? Is there a manger within you that he can rest in? Does the Lord take his humanity in you? And if so, then we begin to experience that and let it grow within us. And that becomes something we share with those around us. We sacrifice. We give up. We cooperate. We share. We take not to ourselves, but rather we give away. And we begin to understand what love is. Love is less the feeling and more the choice. We may never, ever feel warm and fuzzy when we are doing the most loving thing. And yet, that is love. Being patient when it's hard to be patient. Not snapping and yelling when we are angry. Obeying when it's difficult. This is why St. Paul's words are so hard for us today. Because he tells husbands and wives and children to do the things that don't come natural. Be subordinate to one another. Obey one another. Pour yourself out for one another. We would rather do that for ourselves. I'm subordinate to no one. I would rather be equal. I don't want to love for another. I want to get something back. What if they don't love me in return? I don't want to obey. I want to be independent. I want to have my own life. Charting our own course fulfills nothing. Searching for love inside ourselves leads us down a dark and empty path. When we love someone for what they do for us, for how they make us feel, for what we get from them, we are not loving. We are using and abusing. That's not love. Love is what I give. Love is what I offer. Love is what I sacrifice. We measure love by the amount of sacrifice that is involved. The Holy Family makes many, many decisions we hear in today's gospel. Each and every time laying down their lives, each and every time turning themselves over to God's will, each and every time. Here Joseph hears the message of the angel and has to uproot himself again. Here he has to scurry off with his family to a place of safety and live in a foreign land for we don't know how long. One thing after another, giving themselves up, doing for the other's good. Mary gave her life totally to the Christ child. Joseph gave his life totally to Mary and the Christ child because God has given his life totally to us. That's what love is. So as we look around, remember that love is not something out here. It's not an idea. It's not a feeling. It's not even a thought. But rather, love is an action. It is what we say. It is what we do. And if we cannot love those flesh and blood human beings who are around us, we can never love God. We learn to love God by loving human beings. That's why he became one, to show us the way to love God perfectly. So look how you love your parents. Look how you love your children, your spouse, your relatives, family and friends. Look how you act and react. And that shows us how we love God, how we act and react to him. That's flesh and blood love. That's real love. The choice to give ourselves to one another, even when it doesn't feel all that good.